In this bonus video, we're going to talk about a different paradigm. Normally, we've been learning about object-oriented programming paradigm. In this case, we're going to learn a little bit about functional programming paradigm. And this is good for us because this anonymous class that we created is good, but it's a lot of boilerplate code that we could make it into something more good for the eyes, let's say. It has a lot of use, this Lambda, don't get me wrong, but this could be converted into something where the name does not matter. So the name action listener or action performed is nothing to do with the purpose of our code here, which is just to print these when it gets clicked. In these moments, creating something called a Lambda, which comes from functional programming paradigm, is much better or cleaner for our code. And this is what we're going to do. Now, Lambda, you don't make it into anything special. All it is that it converts your method into something that looks like this on our right side of the screen, where the parameters are listed inside of a parentheses, the same way as here. And really, that's all that matters. Really, when you call a method, what you care about is the parameters and the body. But normally you need to know the name to call it. In the case of Lambda, we don't care about the name. All we care about is the parameters and the body. So we could utilize that here in this case. This new action listener, we could convert it into a Lambda. So what is it that we require in the parameters? Is we require a action event. We don't even have to specify the type. We could say E. The moment I type in this E, notice that my IntelliSense already picked up that I want to do a Lambda session. Notice here, it's the symbol for Lambda, this little type of that looks like A. Now, this is the first parameter that we have. Notice that I didn't mention the type. It's not required to because it knows it, because here I can only insert an action listener, which requires an action performed. And this is only possible because here we only have one method. So if I wanted to, I could name this something else just to show you that we don't need to be bound by E or anything like that. The next thing is we need to put an arrow. So here I put a dash and a bigger than, less than symbol, and then we could specify what we want to happen. If it's only one statement, right? If it's only one statement, if only I have this, it's fine to do it without having the curly braces for the body. If it's not, well, then I would suggest you put the curly braces. So you create the body and we put semicolon and add as many statements as we want. So in this case, let's say I'm going to copy whatever is happening here, and we're going to do it here as well. This S is currently non-existent, so we'll just move it up a little bit. Now, this Lambda doesn't make it any fancier. It has the same limitations as the anonymous class. So again, if I'm using a variable, local variable, make sure it's final, otherwise I won't have access to it. Just to showcase that. So again, let's do S equals something else, and you could see that I'm getting errors in both cases. So it's the same thing, but if now you look at my code a bit here, it looks much more interesting, much more cleaner. Now, if I have multiple parameters, we could just separate them by a comma. It always goes in order, right? And we could put a parentheses if we want to, such as this. It's not needed here as it's one variable. And because I'm not utilizing the variable, it's much better just to make it something smaller, so we could ignore it. Now, in both cases, they work fine, but look at this cleanliness compared to this amount of information. Let's just run it to make sure it works. So this is for our first button, which is the top one. The bottom one, we already know how it works. Let's put Reza here, press this, and you could see that it works. Notice that both buttons should be working. B, it works, and this, they're both doing the same thing. Cool. So this is Lambda. You're going to utilize it a lot of places. Notice also the IDE. This is the last thing I'm going to say. The IDE is going to suggest it sometimes. So our code will become cleaner if we replace it with Lambda, press it, and it will do it. And if any time you want to go back, well, again, go on it, wait for this little light bulb, and replace Lambda with anonymous class. Cool. You could expand parameter types and so forth, so on, specify what it is, etc. You could do whatever you want. Just learn these little tools. They're going to make your programming much smoother and faster, or enable you to be more focused or have cleaner code. See you guys in the next video.